Hello students, in the last class we have discussed about various ways to preserve a fruit beverage. So starting from pasteurization, aseptic canning, preservation by using different chemicals, sugar, freezing, drying, carbonation and filtration. So in the last two classes we have discussed about unfermented beverages or fresh fruit beverages or fruit beverages, so each involve different types, how they differ, and their preparation and preservation. So in this class we will discuss about fermented beverages, how these fermented beverages are prepared. So what is the method of preparation, what are different types of fermented beverages that are available, and we'll discuss in detail about all these things in this particular lecture. What are fermented fruit beverages? So the juice which is extracted from the fruits, so that is used to ferment. This fruit juice undergoes fermentation so that whatever the product that is being produced, it contains alcohol. So such beverages are called as fermented fruit beverages. That means fruit beverages, fruit juices undergo alcoholic fermentation by using yeast, and then they will produce alcohol. So such beverages are called as fermented fruit beverages. There are wide variety of fermented fruit beverages that are available, so either made from grapes or apple or berries or pears, or based on the different types of sources, so they can be called by different names, like you have wine, champagne, cider, port, sherry, muscat, perry, orange wines. There are different types of wines which are available. We will discuss about much about these different types of wines and their classification, and even other fermented fruit beverages which are slightly different from these wines. In this lecture we will discuss about these following fermented fruit beverages, which include wine. Under wine we have different varieties of wines, different types of wines, and we have a cider which is made from apple, and vermouth, so which is spiced wine, and brandy. These are the different fermented beverages that we are going to discuss. Wine. Wine is in general, it's a fermented fruit beverage that is prepared from grapes. If you use grapes as a source of fruit and then you ferment it, so that is called as a wine. So this a fermented beverage that is prepared from grapes and it produces alcohol, so such beverage is called as wine. But if you use a different type of fruit instead of grape, if you use a different type of fruit, so then you just put the name, just prefix the name before the wine, specifying that it is made out of such fruit. So for example, if you prepare a wine from plum, it's called as plum wine. If you prepare a peach from peach, it's called as peach wine. There are different types of wines. Basically this wine is referring to the fermented beverage that is prepared from grapes. So wine, simply the name wine, it refers to the grape wine. But these wines from grape itself, there are numerous wines that are being prepared based on its popularity, based on the place from which it is originated, or usually it is popular or prepared, or from the variety of the grape from which it is prepared, or also from the source of the fruit from which it is prepared. You usually name a type of wine, or different names are being given to the wines. The first type of wine what we are seeing here is champagne. This is mainly produced in France. So this particular beverage, that is champagne, is very popular, and So in the method of preparation involves fermenting in bottle itself. So the process of fermentation is allowed to continue in the bottles. So that means when it is carried out in the bottles, a lot of gas is produced, carbon dioxide is produced. Then the bottle need to have enough strength, or it needs to withstand high pressure, so that the produced gas is confined in the bottle instead of it is bursted out. So the glass needs to withstand high pressure that is created during the fermentation process. So this is champagne. It is mainly produced in what do you call it, France. It is from again grapes. So unless and otherwise it is specified, all the wines are from the grapes, right, in general. Another wine is port. So this is also sweet red wine, so which is originated in Portugal, so named after the country in which it is originated, so that is called as port. It's again from the grapes. Another wine that is called as muscat. So this particular wine is prepared from the muscat variety of grapes. In the previous two cases, these are the places Champagne and Port, and this muscat is named after the variety from which this variety of grapes from which this particular wine is prepared. And Tokay is a fortified wine from Hungary. So it is a different place, Hungary, this particular wine is prepared. Another grape wine is sherry. This is a Spanish wine wherein the maturation of the wine is carried out by placing them or by pouring the wine into the barrels, and these barrels are placed in the hot sun at a temperature of 54 to 60 degrees Celsius for a period of 3 to 4 months. Such wines are called as sherry. Till now we have seen various wines which are basically prepared from grapes, maybe either from the place of origin or the place where it is most popular, or the variety from which it is been made, like you have a champagne from a place in France, and a port from Portugal, and muscat is prepared from the variety of grape called muscat, and Tokay it's popular in Hungary, and the sherry which is a Spanish wine. All these wines are basically made from grapes. If a wine is prepared from pears, it is called as perry. If a wine is prepared from oranges, it's called as orange wine. But in the case of orange wine, you need to make sure that the orange peel shouldn't have much oil in it. So there shouldn't be addition of much oil in the orange peel, which prevents the fermentation. It completely stops the fermentation if you add more of orange peel in it. Another one is if you prepare the wine by using certain berries like your strawberries or blackberries or elderberries, such wine is called as berry wine. Feni is a most popular Goan drink. This is a wine that is prepared from the fermentation of cashew apples. Another wine is Nira. So this wine is prepared from the inflorescence of Palmyra palm trees. This you have already studied in the plantation crops while you are studying about the cashew as well as Palmyra palm. Here is a catchy slide where different types of wine are displayed. On the top row, all are made from grapes: champagne, port, muscat, tokay. All are made from grapes, and even the sherry, these are all made from grapes. And the perry, orange wine, and feni are made from pears, oranges, and cashew apple, right? But how they are different? These grape wines. So the champagne is prepared in France, and the port is from Portugal, and the muscat wine is from the muscat variety of grapes. And Tokay is originated from Hungary, and sherry is a Spanish wine which is matured in the hot sun. And remaining these wines are from other than grapes. So those are pears will produce perry, and oranges are fermented to produce orange wine, and cashew apples are fermented to produce popular drink of Goa, that is Feni. Till now we have discussed about different types of wines. Usually the place from which it's originated or is much popular, or the variety, or based on the variety or named after a variety, or from the uh, species or the fruit from which it is fermented. So those are named after the source of the plant or the source of the fruit, or from the origin or place. So here you can see the classification of wines. These wines are classified based on various aspects, either it's having sugar content or not, or based on the alcohol content, or on the presence or absence of carbon dioxide, that is either it is whether it is carbonated or not. So let's see how these are classified. As you can see, in the first aspect is the sugar content. If the wines are having sugar, those are called as sweet wines. They may be having some little sugar in it, and they are sweeter in taste, while the wines which are not sweeter, those are called as dry wines. So the wines which lack sugar are called as dry wines. The ones which have sugar and which are sweeter to taste, those are called as sweet wines. Dry wines and sweet wines, they are classified based on the sugar content, and these wines are usually having an alcohol percentage of 7 to 10%. Another aspect of which wines are classified is based on the strength of the alcohol present in the wines. If the wines are having more amount of alcohol in them, those are called as strong wines. If they're having less amount of alcohol, those are called as light wines. And those are having 9 to 16% alcohol percent is called as medium wines. So the medium wines contain uh, alcohol percentage of 9 to 16%. If it is ranging less than that, those are called as light wines, so which have 7 to 9 percentage. If it is more than 16%, 16 to 20%, so such wines are called as strong wines. Another aspect is the carbonation. So what if you add a little amount of carbon dioxide in it under high pressure? So it starts releasing bubbles in it. It starts releasing fine bubbles in it, so which makes the wine sparkle because of the light. So such wines which contain carbon dioxide are called as sparkling wines. So the wines which contain carbon dioxide are called sparkling wines, while those which doesn't are called as still wines, because if it doesn't have carbon dioxide, there is no carbonation, then the wine remains still, unlike sparkling in the case of carbonated wines. It's clear? So these wines classification is very important in the aspects of your objective as well as in the short answer type questions, where you need to describe the classification of wines, or even the different types of wines are also important in the aspects of your um, objective questions or in competitive examinations. We have seen different types of wines and the classification of wines, and let's see how these wines are actually prepared. So this in this slide you can see a flow chart indicating how the wines are being prepared. So this is a simple process wherein you select the suitable fruit, suitable variety of the fruit specifically, and then crush the fruit and extract the juice, or along with the pulp you can use based on the type of fruit you are fermenting, and then you add yeast for fermentation, you add inoculum. So after adding the yeast, it, it is allowed to ferment for a specific period of time, and then after fermentation you clarify the uh, fermented beverage, and then allow it to age or mature, and then finally it is pasteurized and packed into the containers or bottles. So this is the process employed for processing or preparation of wine. In this slide you can see a bird's eye view of the preparation of wine, where the berries of grape are crushed, and then they are fermented by adding yeast, natural yeast. After extracting the juice, then you add yeast to that, and then you allow it to ferment. After the fermentation, after clarifying the beverage, then you allow it to age or allow for maturation. So once it is matured, then it is transferred to the bottles and pasteurized, and then stored and packed for a consumption. Let's see the details of methods of preparation of wine. The first step, that is selection of the fruit. So we should select suitable fruits for preparation of the wine. Basically, most of the fruits can be exploited for production of wine. We have a wide variety of fruit species which can be used for production of wine. So starting from apple, custard apple, pear, plum, jamun, muskmelon, pomegranate, kiwi, lychee, pineapple, raspberries. So many fruits can be used. Even the mixed fruits can be used for production of wine. The only thing is it needs a required amount of sugar, the total soluble solids in it, and then a required amount of acidity in it. So if that is being served, so even if it is not having sufficient amount of sugar, that can be replenished, that can be supplemented by adding a certain amount of sugar in it, so that the brix can be increased to the required level, right? And then the wines can be either red or white, so based on the grapes are used. So as such, wine can be prepared from different types of fruits, but the thing is, if it is specific to red wines and white wines, it is specific to the grapes. The red wines are prepared from the red grapes, and the white wines are prepared from the white grapes. But in the case of red wines, they use along with the juice even the skin. But in the case of white wine, it is only the juice that is used for the fermentation. It is only juice in the case of the white grapes for the production of white wine. Next step in the wine preparation involves preparation of fruits for fermentation. So you need to prepare the fruits for fermentation. You allow the fruits to have sufficient surface area and sufficient sugars to be available to the yeast, and suitable conditions like the TSS, the optimum temperature, and acid content of the fruit juice beverage. So that needs to be prepared. So here in this particular step, we need to prepare for the fermentation. So before adding the inoculum, before adding the yeast, you need to prepare the fruit beverage. So for preparation, so before selecting your fruit, after selecting the fruit, you need to select the suitable variety in each case. For example, in the case of grapes, so beauty seedless, arca sham and concord are suitable varieties so for wine preparation. And again, preparation of the fruit, it differs. In the case of grapes, if the grapes are white in color, you just need to extract the juice for adding the inoculum. In case of the grapes which are colored, you need to add inoculum to the must. Must is nothing but we need to remove the stems of the grapes and then crush the grapes. So after crushing the grapes, so there is a oozing of juice and the skin is also intact thereby. So that particular mass of skin as well as the juice is called as must. So these colored grapes we use must, and again it differs from the juicy fruits to the pulpy fruits. If the fruits are juicy in nature, just like the grapes or berries like your strawberry or elderberries, or in the case of even oranges, you extract the juice and you add the inoculum. If it is a pulpy fruit, so you need to extract the fruit pulp. You need to separate the fruit pulp, and to that fruit pulp you are going to add the inoculum. Once you prepare the fruit, whether it is a colored grape or a white grape, or whether it's a juicy fruit or a pulpy fruit, so based on that you need to extract the juice or the pulp. So then everything is prepared. They need to correct the amount of sugar present in it. So the sugar level that needs to be maintained, optimum sugar level for the fermentation to be carried out is 22 to 24 percentage, and then the acidity is 0.6 to 0.8%. In case if the fruit is having low in sugar, such low sugar containing fruits need to be raised. The Brix content of such fruits or the juice or the pulp has to be raised by adding just cane sugar. You need to add the cane sugar so that the TSS will be around 22 to 24 percentage. So you maintain the TSS of the pulp so that the fermentation is easily done with the help of the yeast. Another condition which has to be taken care is to prevent the growth of undesirable bacteria or wild yeast. You don't want other organisms to grow in the sugar rich environment which is suitable for many of the other microorganisms which need to be checked or controlled. So we can control the microbial contamination, or we can prevent the growth of other bacteria and other wild yeast by adding sulfur dioxide at the rate of 50 to 70 ppm. So then you're all set for next step, that is inoculating with the yeast. So you prepare in this step the fruit pulp and the required concentration of sugar and acidity, and then prevent the entry of other microorganisms like wild yeast and bacteria. You don't want wild yeast to enter in it, so which will spoil your wine making. After selecting the fruit and preparation of the fruit for fermentation, the next step, important step, is inoculation and fermentation. So in this step, the prepared fruit beverage or the prepared fruit juice or any kind of grape juice, so what is called as must. So if it is not having sufficient amount of sugars in it, if it is not having 22 to 24 percentage of sugar in it, then it has to be raised to the required Brix by adding cane sugar. If you add cane sugar, it has to you have to bring up the Brix level to 22 to 24 percentage, and then you are ready to go for inoculating with a yeast. So here we use pure yeast, so that is your Saccharomyces cerevisiae variety ellipsoides. So this is added, Saccharomyces cerevisiae variety ellipsoides is added at the rate of 2 to 5%. So 2 to 5% of this Saccharomyces cerevisiae variety ellipsoides is added to the prepared grape juice or any kind of pulp or a fruit juice whose Brix is corrected to 22 to 24 percentage. So once you add that, only thing is it is taken care by the yeast, so nothing to do but you need to create suitable conditions. So added the yeast, that never meant that your job is done, but you need to provide optimum or suitable conditions for the fermentation to carry out, to go ahead. So you need to make sure the temperature is maintained in between 27 to 29 degrees Celsius. If it is an extreme temperature, if it is more than 38 degrees Celsius or less than 10 degrees Celsius, the entire fermentation is going to stop. So we don't want to fermentation to stop. Maintain the optimum conditions of temperature, and after 3 days we need to filter it. So after the fermentation, which is carried about for 3 days by the yeast, you need to filter the juice through muslin cloth. Even after filtering through the muslin cloth, there may be still some suspended solid material, and even the yeast cells may be suspending in the fermented beverage, so which needs to be allowed to settle down. So we need to continue this settling of these yeast cells and other solid substances, again allowing it to ferment for further 10 days, so that all the cells and the solid substances, so which are suspending in the fermented product, will be settling down. They will slowly settle down in further 10 days. So 10 days plus previously 3 days, so it takes around 13 days for fermentation of grapes. In other fruits it takes around 15 to 20 days for the complete process of fermentation in the other fruits. In this slide you can see the fermentation process, wherein in the inset picture you can see the starter pure culture of yeast, that is Saccharomyces cerevisiae variety ellipsoides, so which is used as inoculum in the grape must. So on the left side of the picture you can see before fermentation, and then on the right side you can see after completion of the fermentation. So they, you can clear cut difference between before fermentation and after fermentation because of the yeast. After fermentation of the grape juice, next most important and quality judging step, it judges the quality and the premium nature of the grape wine, that is aging and packaging. Even after allowing the juice to filter through muslin cloth and then allowing it to settle for 10 days to settle down the yeast cells and other solid substances, but still there will be suspended material, so which will be suspending in the grape juice, in the fermented grape juice. So this suspended material need to be brought down, need to be settled down to make a clarified fermented fruit juice, clarified fermented grape juice. So this can be done with the help of a bentonite clay. So we already discussed about various clarifying agents in the methods to clarify juice. So here we are repeating such an aspect of clarification. Bentonite clay helps in bringing down or settling down the suspended colloidal matter that is present in the fermented grape juice beverage. So when the fermented grape juice beverage is treated with this bentonite clay, so which you can see in the slide, when it is added to the um, turbid must, so which is not clear even after clarifying in the two-step process during fermentation, and here it's a final way of clarifying the fermented beverage by using bentonite clay. So it slowly brings down the suspended colloidal matter. So you can see in the three-stage process, in the first stage you can see that the turbid must wine, and the second stage where it is the clarifying agents or bringing down, this clarifying agent here is the fining agent, that is bentonite. So it brings down the colloidal matter to settle at the bottom, and finally you will see a clarified wine. Next, quality judging step is aging or maturation. So this is the step which decides the quality of the wine. Whatever the wine that is clarified by bentonite clay treatment, so you'll get a clarified wine. So this wine is poured or filled into the oak barrels. So oak barrels does the miraculous job. So you fill the clarified wine into these oak barrels and then seal it airtight. They are sealed and then they are allowed to mature for a period of 6 to 8 months. So this is the period at which so many things happen, wherein which the grape juice, fermented grape juice, is completely transformed to get a smooth wine which lacks in its astringency, which would have developed the flavor of the oak, which would have lost the carbon dioxide, and which would have smoothened over this period of 6 to 8 years, and even it would have precipitated some of the tannins present in it. So during this entire process, the quality of the wine is improved. So older the wine, better is the taste. So the taste of the wine is improved, the smoothness is improved over a period of time by storing them, by aging them, or by maturing them in the oak barrels. During the process of aging in the oak barrels, the wine becomes slowly smoothing and it reduces its harshness, and there is a development of characteristic aroma and flavor to the wine. The oak barrels itself will be having certain characteristic aroma. So this gets extracted into the wine and gives an aroma to the wine. And due to the precipitation of the tannins, so during this entire process of aging, the tannins gets precipitated and slowly it causes smoothing. The flavor is imparted by the oak barrels, the specific flavor, and then the smoothing process is carried out as a result of precipitation of the tannins. And further clarification, still further clarification by spontaneous removal of the carbon dioxide occurs in these barrels, as a result of which you will be getting a smooth and sweet flavored or a slow smoothing and nice aroma wine as a result of aging and maturation. Once this maturation is done, then they are further pasteurized at 88 degrees Celsius for 1 to 2 minutes and followed by bottling. These wines can also be fortified. So fortified in the sense, so they can be added with little bit more amount of alcohol. They can increase the percentage of alcohol by adding brandy or a wine spirit. And even the taste also can be modified, manipulated by addition of sugar into it, so that it becomes more tastier, more sweeter. The first fermented beverage that we have discussed elaborately is wine. So wherein we have discussed about different types of wines and classification of wines and the detailed method of preparation of the wine. So now we will discuss about cider. So this is cider is specifically a fermented beverage that is prepared from apples, and like wines, the wines are prepared from usually grapes, can also be prepared from other fruits, but cider is specifically from the apples. So cider is a fermented apple beverage. So it contains around 4 to 6 percentage of alcohol in it, and it is prepared from the apples, table apples or desert apples, so which are having a high amount of tannins, that is 0.1 to 0.3% of tannins. So the this type of apples are used for the preparation of cider. How is this cider is being prepared from the apples? The apples, which are desert apples, so which are having high amount of tannins in it, so they are used for the preparation of cider. So these apples are crushed to extract the juice, and if the juice is not having sufficient amount of sugar in it, so this sugar content is corrected by adding additional amount of cane sugar, so that the degree bricks is made up to 22-degree bricks. So once it is made up to 22-degree bricks, then it is preserved with using sulfur dioxide of 100 ppm. So this is mainly done to prevent fermentation by wild yeast or any contamination or spoilage caused by bacteria. And then when it is done, the preparation of the fruit is done, so the sugar is correct and then it is preserved. So then inoculum of yeast is being done, added to the prepared fruit juice or prepared fruit beverage. And then in this case of cider, apple cider, add DAHP, so that is diammonium hydrogen phosphate. So diammonium hydrogen phosphate at a concentration of 0.02 to 0.05% is added. So it acts as a supplement, it acts as a food to the yeast, so for further fermentation. And then so this fermentation process is similar to that of the wine fermentation. Only thing is number of days it may slightly more compared to the wine fermentation. So once the fermentation is done and clarification is done, and then is allowed to age or mature in the barrels, just like the wine, just like the grape wine, it is allowed to mature in the barrels. So once it is matured, this matured cider is heated to 65 degrees Celsius and filled into the bottles, and then it is crown corked and pasteurized at 60 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes. And then so for better acceptability, so this apple cider is carbonated, so addition of carbon dioxide is done to this cider so that it is better accepted. And that's how the apple cider is prepared, by using the apples, so which are having high amount of tannins in them. And finally, third and fourth fermented beverages in this fermented list of beverages include vermouth and brandy. So vermouth is nothing but an alcohol which is fortified or flavored with mixture of herbs and spices. So it is an alcohol wherein which you add herbs and spices, so that becomes our vermouth. So where the alcohol content is ranging from 15 to 21%, like martini and all, it is a vermouth. So it is an alcohol which is flavored with herbs and spices. Another fermented beverage is brandy. So in a wine, when it is distilled, so by the distillation of the wine you will get brandy, and it is aged in small oak cooperages. And so there are two examples for brandy, that is cognac and armagnac. Cognac and armagnac are slightly different brandies which are uh, distilled from wines. And now we have completed the fermented beverages, so that are your wine, cider, vermouth and brandy, so which are classified under your fermented beverages. And we have already discussed about the unfermented beverages, the fruit beverages, and a part of its remaining here, that includes your vegetable juices, and then fruit powders, and then fruit juice concentrates, so that we will discuss over here. Vegetable juices, usually these vegetable juices, either they are processed or they are consumed fresh. So when it is consumed fresh, so they are consumed as a medicine. So certain medicinal values are there in this fresh vegetable juices, and even some of the vegetables are processed and then they are preserved either in the cans or in bottles, just like the tomato juice. So it has got wide applications in terms of its preservation, in terms of it's a puree, a pulp, or a juice, and even it is relished as a soup, so prior to a meal. Another unfermented part of fruit beverages that includes your fruit juice powders, from which you can prepare a fruit juice beverage. So that includes beverages so which are allowed to evaporate, thereby you'll get fine powder, so to an extent of bone dryness. So they will be completely dry, that means there won't be any amount of moisture in it. They are converted into fine powders by using different techniques of drying, either by freeze drying or by double drum drying or vacuum drying or format drying, or most advanced and highly useful technique of spray drying, wherein which so you will get a fine powder. So after the powdering, these juices, they are highly hygroscopic in nature. So that means when they are exposed to the atmospheric air, they attract the moisture present in the air and they become moist. So that's why such hygroscopic powders, they need to be sealed in hermetically sealed containers. They are hermetically packed. They are packed airtight. They need to be packed airtight so that no air enter into this containers, so that the fruit powders become moist and lose their quality. And whatever the fruit powders that are being prepared, so they are having best quality, best advantages in terms of shelf life. They are having long shelf life and they occupy very less space. They can be transported very easily, and they are soluble even in cold water. We just need to put them in water and then they get readily reconstituted. So they will be as good as a fresh juice. Only thing is certain methods of drying techniques make these fruit juices or fruit powders lose their flavor. So but this flavor can be added to this fruit powders by natural fruit flavors powder form. So when these natural fruit flavors are added, but again there won't be any loss of fruit flavor when they are reconstituted. So that means they can be stored for a long periods of time, and they occupy very less space, and they can be reconstituted readily, and then flavor is also recuperated by adding flavors. Most popular fruits that can be fruit juices that can be dried, or even mango, orange, lemon, so many fruits can be dried into powders and can be preserved in the form of fruit juice powders. And the final unfermented fruit beverage that we are going to discuss is the fruit juice concentrate. This fruit juice concentrate is prepared from the fresh fruit beverages by just evaporating the water content of the juice. We just remove the water content of the juice to such an extent the concentration of the total soluble solids is increased nearly 6 to 7 times that of the original fruit juice. So you are going to increase the TSS of the fruit juice by evaporating the water content of the fruit juice. So thereby it becomes a fruit juice concentrate, and this particular fruit juice concentrate is going to be the base material for number of fruit juice beverages. Either it can be squash, cordial, or RTS, or any kind of beverage. It can be used, or it can also be used for for spray drying to produce fruit juice powders also. The advantages are similar to that of the fruit juice powder, wherein it saves time and it saves in transportation cost, and due to the increase in the total soluble solids, so thereby the water activity decreases. So if the water activity decreases, there is a less chance of microbial spoilage. So it has got an advantage of decrease in the water activity, thereby it can store very well. Those are the advantages of fruit juice concentrate. And these fruit juice concentrates are prepared by using techniques of reverse osmosis by evaporation, whereby you can increase the TSS content of this beverage. Most commonly prepared fruit juice concentrate is the apple juice concentrate, is usually done on the commercial scale. It basically contains four different parts, so wherein which there is an evaporator, there is a separator, there is a condenser, and a fractionating still, and each one will be having its own role in making a fruit juice concentrate. In the case of an evaporator, the evaporator, what it does is, there is a fruit juice, it causes heating of the fruit juice. It brings the vaporization of the fruit juice. It turns the juice into vapors by applying heat that is generated by steam. The steam, it causes heating of the fruit juices and fruit juice, and then it produces vapors at a desirable temperature. So that is the role of an evaporator. And what does the separator does? The separator, it separates the whatever the vapors that are created by the evaporator. It separates the vapor that are created by the evaporator from the concentrated liquid phase. So it separates the vapors from the liquid phase, and then it is called as a separator, and then it goes to the condenser. So whatever the vapors that are collected and separated by the separator, so this condenser condenses these vapors, and then further it is removed from the system, and then there is a fractionating still. So this fractionating still will recover the aroma. So this entire process is carried out so that you will be separating the fruit juice concentrate from the liquid phase. So from the liquid phase, vapor is collected, and then it is separated, and then it is condensed, and you are going to recover the aroma by using the fractionating still. For preparation of apple juice concentrate, usually falling film evaporator is used, and the final concentration is carried out in evaporators which are called as centritherm evaporators. So finally you will be getting a TSS which is 6 to 7 times that of the original apple juice. So you'll be getting TSS content of the fruit juice concentrate which is 6 to 7 times that of the original juice. So whatever the juice that is being collected, that is fruit juice that is being collected, is immediately cooled and stored in large barrels. There are certain advantages of fruit juice concentrate. By concentrating the fruit juices, it is literally going to reduce the volume to a great extent, and then the transportation and the volume that is occupied is greatly reduced, and then it also helps in cases where there is a glut, where there is an excess production, where there is a seasonal uh, rise or seasonal peak in the production of fruits and vegetables. So such fruits and vegetables can be made into like concentrated uh, beverages or fruit juice concentrates. So thereby all these fruit juice concentrates can be stored and kept for a very long periods of time. And further, so these fruit juice concentrates can be made into different beverages like RTS or squash or cordial, and such value added products can be made from these base products. So highly perishable fruits, so which are seasonal in nature, so they can be converted into fruit juice concentrates like oranges, apples, pineapples, and grapes can be made into fruit juice concentrates, and later they can be transformed or they can be used to prepare other different types of beverages. Hope you have enjoyed and understood these fermented and unfermented fruit beverages.